I wonder if you feel as good as I feel when we sing that song. Oh, it's just so wondrous. And here we are, believe it or not, we finished our sojourn into the castle with the good, great St. Teresa of Avila, accompanied by Caroline Mace. And I tell you, I have fully enjoyed being knocked about and around the place by both of these women, and being awakened into that which I, of course, already knew. Way back when, to maybe 175 years ago in Ireland, when I was in my early teens, I came across the great St. Teresa. And boy, did she have an effect on me then, and did she come back around at this time now with full force power? Yes, she did, to remind me of what I once knew then. And of course, at that time, I was thinking in terms of entering into a different kind of castle called a convent. It wasn't the same as this castle, but it was a castle. And it was a great experience, and she certainly was one of my companions. And actually, earlier than that, she was one of my pals, because I took her name, the great St. Teresa's name, for my confirmation when I was in grade school. So, you know, isn't it funny how everything comes around in a circle? So today is the seventh mansion. It's the seventh conscious level of awareness. And in this seventh stage now of awareness and depth and alignment and unification, the soul now has become totally disrobed of the human tendency to get into all those scraps that we normally do in the first three levels of awareness. And the soul sheds the earthly or human skin, so to speak. And what happens is the soul becomes totally absorbed in the divine, and there is this total and full interpenetration of the divine into the soul, and the soul in this absorption becomes one life within the divine. There are no words to describe this, because when you become it, there's no need to describe it. There aren't any ways you could describe it. So you just have to guess at it. And as much as everybody might try to describe it, it's rubbish, really. It's not what it is. It's beautiful, it's awesome, but it's more than that. It's more than that. It's more than that. Now here's the thing, here's the ticket. You and I are invited in to the seventh mansion. Yes, you and I, with all our ups and downs and in and outs and ailments and complaints. We are invited into the seventh level of awareness, into the mansion. All of us are called to be mystics. Realized mystics. All of us are called to what we're capable of demonstrating and expressing and experiencing if we so desire. But we have to desire it. And not only do we have to desire it, we have to embark upon the journey that's going to take us there. And the journey is always taking ourselves on. Taking ourselves, this bull by the horns, and taking ourselves on, and staring down what we think we are, who we think we are, in order to truly demonstrate what and who we really are. And we have to be passionate about it. You can't be wishy-washy. There's no wishy-washy or iffy, or maybe, or maybe not someday. There is no someday. There's no perfect time, there's no perfect state, there's no perfect place, there's no perfect mood. It's always right here, right now, in the heap I'm in. In the heap I am in, I have to get up out of my heap and say, I've had enough heapish. I'm done already with this. I want what I can have, what I authentically am supposed to have. I want it, and I want it enough to do what it takes. And I have to stop pussyfooting around it. Now, I am not going to mince her words when she says on this page, which I recommend everybody read, and it's page 334, and it's in the 7th mansion, and she's talking about the first room, your humble request. She says, many people do not want to change their lifestyles. They do not want to give up their addictions or change their diets in order to take care of their bodies. They do not want to become forgiving, to face emotional wounds, to stop complaining, to make tough choices, to become generous and honest. They simply want to heal and get on with the business of being the way they were. Then she says, examine your requests and expectations of God by asking yourself the following questions. What are you really willing? Now come on. What are you really willing to change? When? Can you change with a willing, cheerful heart? Or will you have to let others know how difficult changing your life is? Will you expect God to heal you immediately? How soon? What kind of attitude will you have if you don't see results right away? Are you willing to change, not look back, and have no expectations and no attachments? Now, she says it like it is, this lady. And those are the hard facts. That's what you and I have to do if we want to start making our way into that 7th mansion in a manner that helps us to sustain ourselves in that state of grace when we need to be there. Because we're not going to stay there permanently. Believe you me, as long as we are wearing a body, we're going to be in and out those rooms like the In-N-Out burger. We are going to be on that wonderful roundabout, in and out, in and out, in and out. But the thing is, once you've reached that depth of being, you know how to get back. You know how to get back, and you get back quickly. And you get in there, and you remember all over again. All over again, you remember the truth that sets us free. We come back out into the material world, and we do great good as a consequence of that, until perhaps we get low in fuel or whatever happens and we need to fuel up again and we step back in again. And that's what we do. And each time we're being a little bit more refined and a little bit more refined and a little bit more refined. We've got to use the intelligence that is ours to use. We've got to draw upon the power that is within us that we can draw upon every time we are challenged, instead of going into awfulness and terribleness and reaching out and clutching every straw out there that's going to help us to release our fears and our tendency to be scared all the time. Now you're going to be fought tooth and nail all the way by your ego, and so am I. Because the ego will say, oh, for heaven's sakes, what's the matter with you? You think that's for you? It's not for you. You couldn't hold that kind of state of consciousness, not for a second. For heaven's sake, you're in the sanctuary. You're asked to close your eyes, and 2 seconds later, they're open. What makes you think if you can't close, if the mind can't give you a command and you can't sustain it for 3 seconds, what makes you think you can go beyond that? And she talks in this too about healing, and she says the healing is not a matter for the mind, it's not a matter for the heart, not for the human mind and not for the human heart. Because the human mind, she says, is a keeper of reptiles. That's its big job. That's what it loves to do. It loves to keep and hang on to those reptiles and take its chance with those reptiles. That's what the human mind, and she says other things about the human mind, so that's why it's really worth the read. And then she says, and don't talk to me about the human heart, because the human heart is the keeper of wounds. The keeper of wounds. Hanging on to these wounds. Nurturing these wounds and won't let go of the wounds. So that's not going to take you anywhere near the 7th mansion. So for that to happen, you've got to go beyond the mind, beyond logic, beyond reason, beyond mood and emotion, And you have to go into cosmic awareness. You have to go into illumination. You have to go into pure consciousness. That's what you have to do. And you of yourself, of course, can't do that. But if you connect yourself consciously to your source, if you become on intimate terms with your source and you relax and you surrender into that and allow source to make the way straight before you, of course you can. It's not going to happen for those of us who are all the time distracted in the outer world, or as the great scriptures say, those who get caught up in carousing, drunkenness, and the cares of life. It's not going to happen for us, you know. It's not just addictions and carousing and drunkenness that's going to distract us. It's the cares of life too. I love the story it's told actually in Matthew and in Luke about the lost sheep. And we're told, listen, if a shepherd is out there and he has 100 sheep, one of them goes lost, what happens? He leaves the 99, he goes off searching for the one lost sheep until he finds that sheep. When he finds the sheep, he puts the sheep up on his shoulders. He comes back, he calls all his friends, he says, look, he's rejoicing. I found the one that was lost. Isn't this marvelous? Isn't this great? And you and I often end up as that lost sheep. How does a sheep get lost? Well, if you know anything about sheep, they like to munch the grass. So they munch it, but how do they munch it? With their heads down. They're munching, they're munching, they're munching. And they're just going to the next bit, and they're going to the next bit, and they're going to the next bit, and the next bit. They're in the next field, they're in the next field, and lo and behold, very soon they're over the fence. And then, when they've had enough, they look up and they say, Mother of God, where am I? Where's my family? Where are my friends? How did I get here? What's going on? And then they have that arduous job, and it's an arduous job of getting back. You know, getting back to the place they left before they got lost. And that's how you and I get lost too. We get caught up in the doing, the getting, the collecting, the achieving, and so on. And one day we raise our heads and we say, oh my gosh, what's my life all about? Was it worth it? Was all of this worth it? Is this making me any happier, any better? Have I become transformed and changed? And am I of a major contribution to life and living, and will I leave a wonderful legacy when I go? Oh my, maybe I could have done things differently. Maybe I could have been more present to my life and to my living, instead of thinking when I was young, I've got to get a grip on this education. I need a good, strong education in order to get a good career. And then once I start my career, I've got to give my time and my effort and energy to this career in order to be a success at this career. And all the time, I'm letting go very important things that are happening around and about me. People in my life that need and want and would love my care, my attention, my time, my presence, my availability. You see, that's how we get lost. We just keep munching with our heads down, munching and munching and munching with our heads down. So, for healing to happen, I cannot heal from what caused the healing, from the level of that which caused this thing that needs now to be healed. I have to go beyond that. I have to have a greater consciousness than the consciousness that's supported what needs to be healed. And that I cannot do of myself. I must be in touch with that which is greater than I am, that accompanies me, that is with me always, that's available to me always, but will only respond to me at my invitation. At my invitation. It must be invited. That's why all the mystics tell us, court the presence, court the presence. Why? Because the presence is always courting us, and you've got to court back. You must court back. You can't ignore it. because it's not going to impose its grace, its power, its presence, its wonderful illumination upon us uninvited. That's how much your free will is honored. Your free will is honored. So once we get that understanding and that awareness, of course we're going to go flying into that beautiful opportunity. Of course we are. And then once we get there and we realize that our soul has so many wonderful illuminated gifts that you and I can express and experience. But remember, these gifts are not ours. They're given to us to share, to give away. They don't belong to us. They're given to us so that we can share them, give them away. And we do that in sacred service. You hear sacred service all over the place now. If you all had $1 for every time you heard me say sacred service, you could have a great vacation, fabulous vacation. And by the time we're finished, you could, do what you wanted to do financially. You'd be independently financial by the time your sojourn and mine are finished together. Sacred service, sacred service, sacred service, sacred service. It's awesome, it's awesome, it's unspeakable, the power that you have. The illumination that awaits your recognition so it can be liberated and used on this plane for great good. It's beyond words. I can't describe it anymore. I don't know how else to describe it. But it's awesome because you are a container. You are a container of illumination. You are a pure vessel of grace. You are that which houses, you are the temple of the Almighty, the Most High. That's what you are. That's the truth of your being. Not that we behave ourselves as though we were. Not that we treat each other as though we were. Not that we recognize that in ourselves or each other. Because if we did, the world would be an entirely place. Your family would be an entirely different family. Your workplace would be an entirely different workplace. Everywhere you went would be a different place if you and I could recognize that. And yet that's the truth. But are you and I interested in the truth? Yes, at soul level. No, at the ego's level. That is the unrefined ego's level. The ego that's out of balance, the ego that's still frightened, the ego that's still afraid. And that's our over-identification with the humanity of ourselves and the egoic tendencies within ourselves. So we need to stop allowing the tail to wag the dog, because that's what we do most of the time. We kind of go into unintelligence. I mean, Troward says, you could view yourself as infinite intelligence operating in an intelligent field intelligently. But we don't. We see ourselves as infinite intelligence operating in a field of intelligence unintelligently. The choice is ours, to be intelligent, to be unintelligent. What is it going to be? Here's the thing, too, about the realized mystic. The realized mystic has become so absorbed and at one in divine illumination and understanding now of what life is and how it is, that it is released of its personal and fundamental theologies and doctrines. It is freed. It shreds. It releases the scales of mythologies, all mythologies. And so the Trinity for a realized mystic is the understanding that there is one power, there is one truth, and there is one life. And that's all there is. That's the Trinity for a realized mystic. One power, one truth, one life. And therefore, consequently, rises up out of and beyond all religious allegiances and has an allegiance to no particular religion. because that has to do with reason, that has to do with mind, that has to do with human constructs. That realized mystic knows that God has nothing to do with religion, doesn't know anything of religion. That is a human construct, and a beautiful one when used along the lines of understanding what unconditional love is, because that's the only purpose of any religion, to demonstrate what unconditional love is. And it's not easy to give up one's personal theologies. It's not easy to give up one's personal fundamental beliefs. It is not easy. Anybody who is endeavoring to do that will share that. That is not easy. What has been impressed upon us since we were knee-high to a grasshopper is not easy to let go of and release. And yet, that's what happens in the dawning of enlightenment and the movement of that illumination upon us. And it's to be desired. It's greatly to be desired. And we have to stop thinking of it as way out there at the time being, as far as I'm concerned. Because I'm so far removed from that, it couldn't happen anytime soon. Baloney. You have to understand that heaven is right here, right now, at hand. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It couldn't be any nearer than that. And those are the words of truth that you and I have to embrace, get our arms around, and be ready to start thinking from, feeling from, and acting from. There's where you know you are growing and maturing spiritually, when you're thinking from, feeling from, and acting from that realization that you are now determined to live your best life, which is life from its highest point of view. Then you know you're on your way. You know that you're getting it. You're truly getting it. And why shouldn't we? Why should we not? But we have to take the tools that we are given and pick them up and use them. And when we put aside our notes and when we put aside our books, that book is done, now on to the next one. And thinking that it's all done, it's not. No, we have to keep going back to them. Go back to the notes, go back to the books. You'll be amazed at the notes you took years ago, and you look and you say, oh my God, did I write that? And then sometimes you go, oh my God, did I write that? You know, but in between the, oh my God, did I write that? There are the pearls. Oh my gosh, where did that come from? You see? So I'm just here to reiterate today, you are worthy. It's nothing to do with deservability. You are worthy of a great good life. You are worthy of a celebratory life. You are worthy of getting out there and making a huge contribution and leaving an enormous legacy when you take off for better things in the next experience and expression of life in its advanced form. You're worthy of it, but you've got to know you are. You've got to feel you are. You've got to say, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am worthy. Say it. Yes, I am worthy. Say it again like you mean it. Say it louder. Again. Again. Do you feel that energy? Do you feel that? That's the greatness within you. That's life going, yay, he got it, yay. So here's what I'm leaving you with. A prayer of the great Saint Teresa. It's a superior prayer. Let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you. All things are passing. God never changes. Patience gains all things, and the one who has God lacks for nothing. Alone, God suffices. And so it is.